Today I'm going to cover what is focus, some tricks for how we can get better focus, and I will also tell you a secret about waiting before you go in the water after eating that just may save your life if you survive the zombie apocalypse. All that coming up right now on Andy in the Wild.
Hey, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could.
Okay, so let's get into it. We talked about distractions. Now we're going to talk about focus. If you missed the last episode, I'll cover a little bit of that and reference it just a tiny bit. But if you did not see episode previous to this one, you should go back and watch it where we talk about distractions and how to avoid them. But now let's talk about focus and why it's hard to focus. Let me start by saying that there never seems to be enough time to get the things done that we need to get done. And once time has passed us, once it's gone, you cannot get it back. It is too important of a thing to waste. And anyone that works from home and has distractions and family and a life in general knows this. It is so easy for that time to slip away and for interruptions to steal it from us. So we've got to keep our concentration during our working hours and maximize that time that we do have. So we're going to go over first looking at what really is focus so that we understand it a little bit better. That's pretty brief and you'll already know the answers. No, not really. I got some secrets in there. Yeah, nobody's ever said any of this before. And then we're going to look a little closer at the ways we can use time to get better focus, the ways we can not necessarily avoid distractions, because we talked about that before. This is more about how we keep ourselves concentrated, how we apply willpower, how we allow ourselves to get more done and stay more deeply focused on a topic. So, as we go, let's see what focus really is. So what do we need to know about getting focused? Well, staying focused takes effort. So that means it's a lot like willpower. It requires practice. And you can get better at it over time as you use it more. It's like a muscle. You can strengthen it. Once you get better at focusing and not letting minor distractions get you away from what you should be doing, you become better at it over time. So the more you do it, the better you get. Some things are harder for us to focus on, and that's because, well, there's lots of reasons. Maybe we aren't interested in the topic, or we're tired or in a bad mood or we're stressed or hungry. And that's a big one. Let's say you're going to the grocery store. It's just like that. You go to the grocery store when you're hungry and you don't have a lot of energy. So it makes it harder to avoid going down and buying cookies, which, our willpower should keep us from doing because we know they're not healthy for us. But we do it anyway because we don't have the energy to exert the willpower that we need to avoid buying bad stuff for us, or let's say a 2-pound bag of gummy bears. Focus is just like that. There are mental and physical states. Our mental and physical states matter and affect how much we can focus, how easily we can apply our energies to making sure we do stay on topic. And then concentration and focus are, both applications of willpower. So they come together like that. Distractions, also, they do more than just break our focus. In the last episode where I talked about distractions, I cited a University of California, Irvine study where they found that every time we're taken off of a subject, whenever we're focused and we're distracted by something and we have to change our mental processing to think about something else, that costs us on average 23 minutes and 15 seconds, so almost 25 minutes to recover from it and get back to the state we were in. If you think about that, let's say you get distracted 5 times in a day, that's almost 2 hours you're losing right there just to distractions. So now think about if you are getting in an 8 or maybe 10-hour day, now think about losing 2 of those hours. That's serious stuff. So this is why it's important. And if you can do things to increase your focus, then we need to do them. because we can get that extra time in. And then that time that we're getting back becomes time we can apply to other things, maybe family or hobbies or stuff that is important to us also. Another way that we can allow distractions to take us away from being focused is by just not being organized with our day. If we don't plan our day, and if unimportant tasks are laying around and we're not already ahead of time saying we're going to work on this, and then we're going to work on this, and then this, then those unimportant tasks get our attention because we're between things and they pop up or they catch our attention. So we just go ahead and take care of them. We don't want that. We want to be focused. We want to be working on the things we choose to work on deliberately. And by planning our day, we take the opportunity to allow ourselves to be focused on the important things. If you're unsure what to work on next, you'll do things like you'll check your email or your chat with somebody on Slack, and these things are not good. And then the other thing that distracts us is other people interrupting our work. And that's usually the biggest one. That's well, at least for people who work with other people, unlike me, that I work in isolation, but other people are here when I'm here. So when I'm alone, I do the bad stuff I talked about before, like checking email and going on Slack. When I have other people around, they definitely distract me. And that's also sometimes my fault. I like to talk. I like to interact with people and be social, people I know and I like. I don't actually like going places and talking with people I don't know. That's something other people like to do. All right, so let me tell you a quick story about, at one point in my work at home career, I achieved a level of focus in the once upon a time that I had that I was very impressed by. And this is something that, well, I'll explain first what I was doing. I learned how to shut out background noise and anything that was a distraction, like especially a minor distraction, the little things. I completely was able to shut those out. Part of the reason was because at the time I had very young children in the house. I still have young children in the house, but some of them are a little bit older. But at this time, the kids were in the house all the time. They weren't in school. They weren't going anywhere. They were always here. So there were always other people in the house taking care of the kids, plus me. So I had to learn to get hyper-focused to the point that I was like in tunnel vision mode, blocking everything out. I got so good at this that at one point in time, people could walk into my office, like grown adults could walk in and begin talking to me about something. And I could even acknowledge them and maybe even respond to them. But I had no idea what they were saying. I never took my mind off of the task I was working on. I continued working on it. Sometimes I would turn and face them, but usually not. And they would talk to me about something, and I would, almost out of a reflex, I would say the right thing. I would say, uh-huh, or yes, or okay, sounds good, whatever. I knew what to say to get them to continue to, do whatever they were going to do without, really digging in and asking me to think about what they were saying. I would just agree, basically, with anything. But at the same time, I was not stopping what I was doing. I might be writing some code or doing a design or writing something. And I sometimes had to do that because the particular task I was working on would require me to have certain things in my mind at that time that I had to remember. And if I even broke my attention from it for a couple of minutes, I knew it was going to take me a long time to get back into working on it. Like I acknowledged this, I figured this out, and my situation forced me into learning to be this way. And the side effect of it was that after I got done with whatever portion of what I was doing, and I hit a stopping point, I would leave my office and I would go up to the person that had previously visited me, and I would say something like, okay, so a couple minutes ago you came to talk to me about something and I have no idea what you said. I got very good at it. Now, I recently, not too long ago, read a book about being a good listener, and it completely ruined this reflex for me because I started trying to apply other skills and tactics to be a better listener so that I could respond to people and be a nicer, I thought, nicer person to people, because I do have a habit of not hearing people always. I'm listening, but I'm not hearing what they're really saying, and I wanted to become better at that. This book ruined my ability to focus like I used to. I've got to find a way to do both at the same time, but anyway, there's a little story about how you can really, really dig in and just shut the world out. Some of you may think that's a bad thing. I thought it was a good thing. I thought it helped me to get done what needed to be done when it needed to be. All right, so now that we know what things are, how we define focus and how it affects us and how we can use it, let's talk about how we can obtain focus, what things we can do to make better use of our time with focus. So there are some small changes we can make. Some of the things we can do just to control our situation to make it easier to focus. For example, our physical environment plays a very big role in this. The level of noise that you hear, background noise, street noise, we can shut these things out usually. Kids playing, people talking gets a little bit harder. Construction work, it can be pretty bad sometimes, especially if it's not something you're used to. And then there's the things like loud, unexpected noises, a loud boom. I once had the Blue Angels practicing near my home. I live right between an airport and an army base, and so no air traffic is allowed to go over my house because of our how close we are to the army installation. And so all of the air traffic goes doesn't go over my house, it goes the other direction. Well, when the Blue Angels were here, they were given clearance to fly in the area that no one else was, going back and forth between this army installation and the airport. And they were literally buzzing my house. They flew over the first time and I didn't know they were out there, and the whole house boomed and shook like it was an earthquake, and stuff fell off the shelves, and my dogs freaked out. So I went outside, and then I saw them coming back. They were flying so low that their shadow covered my entire house, and I could read the numbers on the bottom of the plane. So, and it scared me a little bit because I thought, wow, if I had a taller house, they'd hit it. But, they weren't that low, but it looked like it. But they were flying so low. So loud things like that, they're going to take your attention away no matter what. But we can control the noise in some ways, like if there's people talking, if there's kids playing, or worse yet, kids yelling and screaming at each other or crying. Man, when the kids get into a fight over something and you just want to step in and say, stop it. What is your problem? Why are you two being so mean to each other? Or something like that. It's hard for us to avoid doing those things because, we want to be good parents and we want to make sure that the kids are doing things and not hurting each other. But at the same time, if there's someone else there that can do that, then the only thing that the noise does is it distracts you. I started buying noise canceling headphones specifically for this reason. And I would, when kids were here in the summer, things like that, I put them on and I play music in them. There are white noise generators you can use and things like that. Some types of music can increase your ability to focus. There's a good bit of research on that if you're interested in it. It's different for different people. I know someone who loves to listen to rave music and like electric stuff. And they're just, working to that all the time. I know some people who hate that. There are certain types of orchestras and classical music that are supposed to really increase your ability to focus and get into a work mode that's very productive. Another physical environment thing you can do, your lighting can make you feel tired. If you're in a dark room or it's dim, it can increase the feeling of being just like tired, kind of like when the sunset starts hitting, it's the end of the day. Our bodies naturally react to that. So if you can keep your room well lit and make sure that even seeing daylight can really help if you have a window. If you can do that, that can also help with alertness and not feeling mentally fatigued. The next thing for physical environment related is a messy work environment. This is something that we do where they've studied this, and people find themselves feeling more fatigued and less able to concentrate when they have a messy desk or when they're in a room that isn't organized. So, clean up your desk every now and then, make sure that things aren't, you don't have things all over the place and papers everywhere. I try to do this occasionally. I have had periods where my desk has gotten pretty disastrous. Um, it's okay. I don't have a problem working with my office being messy, but I don't like it. The thing that actually irks me the most is when my desk is treated as a resting place for anything that anyone happens to carry into my office before they leave. It gets put on my desk and then they walk away. Not that it belonged on my desk, not that they meant to put it on my desk, but that they just didn't care to hold on to it anymore. And so my desk was a flat surface that was near them, and so they set it down. My kids did this so much that I stopped even cleaning my desk because I was so frustrated by it. Then I got to a new frustration level, and what I did was I cleaned my entire desk. I put everything away. And the next time someone brought something into my office and left it on my desk, I picked it up and I threw it out the door without even getting out of my chair so I could keep working and not have to stop to go give it to them or call them to come interrupt me again or anything. I just threw it. And if they put something that's breakable on my desk, they now know it's going to get shattered on the floor outside my office and someone's going to have to clean it up. And I'm not someone. So there are better ways to approach that. I probably let it go on for too long without confronting people, and I got frustrated, and so I dealt with it like that. But it worked. And your comfort level will also impact your ability to stay focused for things you can control in your physical environment. Your chair, if it's uncomfortable, if it's not the right height for you, how close you sit to your desk, how your arms rest on it, if your arms don't come down at the right angle and rest in a weird way, or the edges of your desk rest on your elbows or your arms or your wrists somehow uncomfortable. Even the temperature in the room, these things can all impact your comfort level and therefore your ability to focus. Some people get sleepy feeling if it's hot or something in a room. I mean, I can sleep if it's hot, but being hot does not make me feel sleepy necessarily. If I'm bored, maybe, but being cold makes me feel really uncomfortable. Somehow, with the way that the airflow in our house is set up, I don't know why, most of the hot air in the downstairs where my office is, a lot of it comes through my office, and I'm not sure why that is. So if the doors to my office are shut, the downstairs doesn't get as warm as it should. But if the doors to my office, even if they're open all the way, I still get all the hot air first. So in the winter, I'd never get cold in my office. It's always nice and toasty. It's not great for the computer, keeping it working efficiently, but it makes me feel good. The thing that I really don't like is when it's so cold that my fingers feel unable to type. So I'm in a different office now than I used to be. Before our third child was born, I used to be in a different, our second. Yeah, it was so when our second child was born, we needed to use the room that was currently our guest room to become her room. So my office, which was the other spare bedroom, became the new guest room. So I was kicked out of that room. But the benefit of that was that room had the worst airflow of the entire downstairs of our house. It is crazy cold in that room in the winter. I got a space heater. I actually had two at one point, space heaters in there that I kept in my office just so I could work, because I would work late at night and nothing I did, like I could shut off every vent in the house except the one in my office, and that office still would not get warm. It was on the ass end of the house. It got only morning sunlight on it. It had one window that faced north, so no sunlight on that side. And by the end of the day, it was cold. So, and at the time, I worked really late at night. I am a late person. I like to work in the evening. I feel very effective then, but I can't do it as well anymore. I'm more productive now if I just get up and do my stuff that I need to do during the daytime. But at this point in my life, I worked crazy hours and I pulled lots of all-nighters. And so I'd be in that room late at night, all night in the winter, freezing, and it would just be painful to type because my knuckles were so tight because of the cold. So I had the space heaters. So you have to adjust it to your liking, but that's, those are the things. Those are the physical environment things I could tell you about that can impact your ability to be productive. I can tell you right now, I didn't want to be in that room at nighttime working, and only because I had an enormous drive at the time was I able to force myself to be in there. I was always working on things that I wanted to be working on, I was passionate about, and I was extremely driven. So even the discomfort, I was able to push through that. If you're working on something that falls into the category that we talked about earlier of you're not interested in, or it's boring, then the little things like physical environment discomforts are going to make it a lot easier to just say, oh, I'll do this tomorrow, or man, I don't want to do this. Maybe I can just work on it later. So there you go. Now let's talk about how you can trick yourself into being more focused. There are some mental and environmental factors that affect how we feel, how we behave. We can take advantage of those. So I'm going to tell you about a couple of tricks. I think I have 5 of them. So trick 1 is that smells can change our behavior. All right, so there are studies of this that come up with different kinds of information, but in general, we know that smells impact our mood and even our behavior. They've tried this in factories a bunch of different times where they'll pump in different smells and they'll see how the workers do, if they make them more alert or more sleepy or more efficient and things like that. So we have some generalizations we can go on, but the basic idea of this is the reason smells affect our mood and our behavior is because of our own memories and experiences formed when we're, especially as children, related to those smells. So it's you're behaving and you're reacting to that scent because of something in your past that it reminds you of, or a memory it invokes, or a feeling. They've got studies where like women, when they're pregnant, that eat a lot of garlic. They find that babies that the mothers ate a lot of garlic, they're more attracted to the smell of the garlic and things like that, even as infants, and the ones who didn't, they're not, or they don't like the smell of it. So this is entirely, subjective to in each person, but we do have some generalizations based on some things, like when they pumped smells into factories and stuff like that, that we can use as a basis to try and find what scents work for us. This is, so for most people, you can guesstimate that the smells of citrus and cinnamon are going to help increase alertness and happiness. And something like peppermint is going to be better for concentration. There are other ones that you can look up and find information about online, but some of them are weird smells that it's hard to find scented things that have these smells. You could probably find candles and stuff like that, but I don't like to have to remember to light candles. So if like basil is one of them. Basil has a certain impact on us when we smell that. And you're not going to find a Glade scented oil refill that plugs into your wall for basil. But you could find a candle, I'm sure. But anyway, that's the point. So find the ones that work for you. You can do a little research and find the different scents out there and how they're described, but it does depend. Right now in my office, I have 2 different scents going. And that partially this is because my dogs are in my office all the time. I shut the doors and the heat, and like I mentioned, it's hot in here and it starts to smell like dog after a while. So I have 2 different scents. I plug them in on opposite sides of the room, and I kind of test changing the amounts of them to see how it impacts me. I have one that's citrus and one that's apple cinnamon. And I've found that it does. I have been more productive, I believe. I think they've increased. I think they've helped. And that may just be because I walk in my office now and it smells good. So I want to go in my office versus walking in my office the day after. You get used to a smell, being in there all day, and then the next day you walk in and you're like, dog. Or it's been raining a lot lately, wet dog. But you get the idea there. Let's see. Tip number 2. Trick number 2. Caffeinate properly. This one's tricky because most people, according to what they say your caffeine intake should be, have too much caffeine. I don't know about that. But we do know that caffeine, from numerous studies, can improve your mood and your memory and your energy levels. Study after study backs that up. Too much caffeine can make it harder to focus. If you've ever had too much caffeine and you get all jittery and you can't concentrate, then that's what they're talking about. But I have another tip that you don't hear a lot, and this one has to do with timing your caffeine. There's some good information out there that shows waking up in the morning and having coffee first thing isn't necessary. And it's because when you wake up in the morning, you have the highest energy levels you're going to have all day. So you're not really increasing your energy output. All you're doing is making yourself a little bit more alert. You're waking yourself up a little faster. So don't have your coffee right away in the morning. This is something I've done for a while, and I like it because I'm not always going to be able to work on my most important task first thing in the morning. Instead, I get up, I do some work that I need to get done. Maybe I check my emails and I answer some questions for people, or I review previous day's things. Then I have my coffee later in the morning. So maybe it's 10:30 in the morning, I'll have my first cup of coffee. The benefit of that is I can time my most important tasks and the things that I know are going to be harder for me to do, the things that I don't necessarily want to do but need to do. Time those to be at the same time as when I'm having the coffee or when I know it's going to be helping me the most. Then you also can delay when you're going to have that afternoon slump if the coffee is something that for you feel when it wears off and you have that tired feeling and you're like, I need to go have my next cup of coffee. Sometimes that times out really well with when lunch happens, and there's a effect from lunch also of making people feel tired and sleepy, why they say don't be the first speaker at a conference right after lunch because everybody's nodding off. So you can do those things and you can caffeinate properly to increase your productivity and be more focused when you need to be. And then trick number 3, feeling overwhelmed is not going to help you. And this one's tough for some people because it's hard to tell ourselves not to have to do as much. That's what you have to do in this one. Having too many things to do, if you have a daily task list or something and you just load it up with stuff and there's no way you're going to finish all that, it's not good. It's a negative effect. You see that stuff and you know you're not going to get it done, and it increases your stress to feel like you have to. So not completing all those tasks isn't going to make you feel better at the end of the day. So it's going to make you feel worse. But if you can limit the number of daily tasks you have, you can eliminate both of these things. You're not going to necessarily feel overwhelmed. You're going to see the tasks and say, okay, I can do that. And then if you get more done than that, you have a positive feeling at the end of the day. Well, hopefully you do. Finishing more than we planned on, I mean, that's a good thing, right? Trick 4, meditation, works for some people. So the research is kind of in on this one, and it shows that meditation does work for people who do it. It helps with keeping them more focused, having more willpower. It strengthens your mind in a good way, less stressed. I've tried this and it doesn't really work for me. I've given it a real effort. I've tried to schedule time for it and fit it in for a certain number of days in a row and make sure that I do it. And it's just not for me. I know other people that it's not for them also. And I know people that really like it and it works for them. The important thing about this, though, is that what we normally think of as meditation for people who haven't done it, that's not necessarily what you have to do. The meditation only has to be sort of you have to clear your mind of your thoughts. 15 to 20 minutes, doesn't even have to be any longer than that. All you really have to do is sit quietly, focus on your breathing, and any thoughts that come into your mind, you just let them go. The idea here is that by getting better at clearing our minds of these unwanted thoughts when we're trying to focus on nothing, or just keep our mind clear, will help us when we are focusing on something to get those unwanted thoughts that are coming in during another project or about something else that would be a distraction. We're better able to clear those out. So if you can do it, that's great. I've tried. I'll probably give it another try again. So far, it hasn't really worked for me, but that's because I have trouble doing the meditation, not so much it having a positive impact on me. So definitely give it a try if you think that you can do that. Trick number 5 is something you've heard before. Get that blood flowing. Tons of information on this out there that shows how when you do some sort of aerobic exercise, you get the blood going, blood goes to your brain, you can think better. But it doesn't have to be something extreme. We're not telling you to start an exercise regimen, of going to the gym before you do a project or something. If you want to do that and you want to get in shape and increase your health, there are lots of positive benefits of that as well. But all this is, we're talking about spending 30 seconds to a minute before you start a project of doing some kind of intense, something that really gets the heart pumping. So sprint in place or do some push-ups. It doesn't have to be crazy, but if you do it right before you start a task, that can help you focus a lot better. All right. Well, there's all the tricks. There's all the 5 tricks that can help with your focus and get you going and maybe make it a little easier to not have those distractions. All right, now we're going to talk about my helpful tip that I do at the end. And this one, like we said, was about eating before you swim. So you are better off eating a small meal before you go swimming, as opposed to the conventional wisdom that says to wait 30 minutes after eating before you get back in the water. That's kind of an old wives' tale. The basis for it was on the idea that when you eat, the blood goes to your stomach, and then there's less blood for your muscles, so they're more likely to cramp, and that would be bad. So don't go swimming after you eat means because your muscles will cramp up and then you'll drown. That's not true. The amount of blood that is taken to digest food is not enough to cause your muscles to lack the blood they need to avoid cramping. So another way we know this is a good idea is that elite swimmers will eat food before they swim. They'll make sure they have a small amount of food in their stomach. And that's for a lot of reasons, but some of them include it gives you extra energy. Long distance swimmers especially do this, and that has to do with actually a number of factors, including that they sometimes swim in very cold waters, and having food in your stomach and the digestion process increases your body temperature, and having your body be warmer also prevents cramping because cold water is more likely to cause your muscles to cramp. There's also the increased energy you get from it, and that can help also, especially for long distance swimmers, because if you get tired while you're out, say, swimming the English Channel, well, that increases your chances of drowning. So you don't want to get tired. Or if you swim too far out from shore or a boat leaves you somewhere, I don't know. But having a little bit of food in your stomach is a good idea before you go swimming. Now, here's where it comes into play with helping you survive the zombie apocalypse. Let's say the apocalypse is still going on, and you know you're going to have to make a run for it. You're in a safe place now, but I'm going to have to go somewhere. Well, if you know the place you're going to be going might have a river or a stream or a lake that you will have to cross, there's a chance you'll have to swim it. Now, I don't know if zombies can swim or not. I've never researched it, and I've probably not watched enough zombie stuff to know. I'm trying to think of anything zombie related that I've ever seen or read involved them swimming. My guess is they're not good swimmers. So not that you're swimming for the purpose of trying to evade the zombies, but because maybe you have to swim to get where you need to go. If you can plan ahead and know you're going to be doing that, have a small meal before you start, and that way you don't get tired and drown or give up or don't complete your trip because you didn't have enough energy or your muscles cramped up because the water was too cold or something like that and get, eaten by zombies. So this is how it could save your life in that situation. Have a small meal first. I know that one's a little bit of a stretch, but I still like the scenario. Watching all the zombies wade into the water, trying to get at you, and you're just sitting there doing a backstroke and not noticing the zombies on the other side of the water. Anyway, that brings us to the end. I don't know what the next show is going to be about yet. I'm thinking I'll probably go through some of the emails that I've gotten and stuff that's been said by people in the comments and things like that, and maybe I'll go based on a suggestion or a question someone's asked. I think it's about time that maybe we can get to something like that. But for now, please don't forget to rate, like, and follow. You can find me online at Andy in the Wild on Twitter and Facebook. Also, you can visit the website, andyinthewild.com, and fill out the comment form. You fill out the contact form there if you want to send me suggestions or questions or whatever it is. And if you're watching this and it's somewhere that there's a comment form down below, be sure to enter in a question or a comment or whatever you want to say there, and I'll respond. We love getting 5-star reviews for people listening that happen to be near some iTunes options to leave 5-star reviews. Those are always appreciated, and we thank you very much for that. But for now, and until next time, we'll see you later. I hope you have a good time, and I hope you get your focus on really good, because you know what? When you're efficient, it feels better. Focus. Bye.